Hello, Moreland friends. This is Matt Backus, and we are here today to talk about standards. All right. So the standard that I've selected for this exercise is standard 1B-AP-10, comes from the Computer Science Teachers Association, CSTA. And this standard, in a nutshell, is about coding. So we have the exact title of the standard, and I'll read it to you, is called Create Programs that Include Sequences, Events, Loops, and Conditionals. So let's unpack a couple of those and see that we all understand exactly what's going on. The big four ideas in this standard and the skills that the students will need. The first one is sequencing. What I like to describe to students as sequencing is the order in which you do something. It's quite simple. I usually start out a lesson on sequencing by telling them that I take a dry toothbrush and then I clean my teeth, then I wet the toothbrush, and then I put some toothpaste on it, and then I put it away back in the holder. And that always gets the students very excited because they say, I'm doing it wrong. And I say, well, I did all the steps necessary to brush my teeth. I just did them in the wrong order. Also use an example of making a cake and doing the ingredients completely wrong and doing things after taking the ingredients out of the oven to demonstrate to them how important sequencing is, because not only do you need to have the right commands, you have to have them in the right order. The second big idea is events. And events is quite simply when something happens. So an event could be in a game when you press a certain key on the keyboard, like an up arrow, your character moves up. Or when your basketball goes through the net, you score a point. Or when two characters collide, they bounce off each other. All of these are events. And events are happening all around us at all the time, but we have to code them because students need to not only know how to play a video game, but how to create the video game. We can do silly things like when I press the right arrow, the character goes down or left. Of course, we wouldn't want that to happen, but just as an example of how we can program events. The third big idea is loops. Loops are simply when you have a command or a series of commands that you need to repeat many times. You just put it in a loop and you say, I want to repeat this 5 times. And it greatly simplifies and shortens your code, makes it much easier. And if you need to fix something, you just fix it once inside the loop instead of multiple times in your code. The fourth big idea is conditionals. Conditionals is definitely trickier for students to realize. Conditionals can just be something as simple as saying, okay, well, I'm going to look down my shoe and it's tied. We're good. Let's keep walking. It's untied. Uh-oh, I better stop and I better tie it. And that conditional goes through our brain all the time. We just simply need to realize that it's a decision that has to be made based on A or B, or it could be more than one A, B, C, D. The conditional is something that happens when a particular condition is met or not met. So in your coding, when something happens, that is how it works. So to further explain what's going on here, I'm going to share with you one of the coding platforms that I work on with my students. This is a coding platform called code.org. And we've got a couple of different examples of things here. The first one here that I want to show you is a basketball game that students are able to create. And this is the introduction to events. So when the left arrow is clicked, the students have to program that the hand moves left. So that when I run this and I click on the left arrow, the hand moves to the left and gets to the basket. Very simple. Let's move forward to one of the trickier puzzles here. The students not only now have to code all 4 directions of the hand, left, right. When the ball hits the hand, they'd want it to bounce off. So they can code all these different things and they need to figure out what the correct thing is to happen. And when it doesn't happen, looking back at their code and back at their events to fix it so it behaves the way that they're expecting to. You can even add more things to events, like when something happens, this particular one says, let's add a sound to the event. And further along, we've also got the full ability for all of the events to be taking place. not only when you start the game, but when all the arrows are pressed. What happens when a ball hits your hand? What happens when a ball hits the wall? What happens when the ball goes in the goal and they score a point? And I even had a student get very creative a few weeks ago, and he gave himself thousands of points for each basketball that made it through the net. And so at the end of the game, after just a few minutes, his score was just in the 7 or 8 figures because he was just giving himself so many points. And I said, well, another student is like, oh, that's not fair. I said, well, you know what? You got to code your game and you got to code your events however you want. Whether or not it's fair or not is not relevant. Let's have a look at some of the other things here. We have loops. So this game is very fun. This is about the movie Ice Age and using loops. So students are programming certain things to happen. For example, here's Scrat. He just needs to be able to move forward 5 times to get the acorn. But instead of doing moving forward 5 times in a row, which certainly would work, this program teaches them that they just need one move forward, and then we use this repeat loop. They stick their move forward inside the repeat loop, crank it up to the number of times that they need, and then off they go. There's even some much more complex ones coming up where we have multiple repeat loops, like having to move forward 5 times here. Then we have a right turn moving forward 6 times, it looks like, a right turn moving forward 3 times. And all those are different loops, which are coded by students. So that is the type of coding that I think is really cool that the students are able to process with their coding abilities here. So there's just a couple of examples of projects or activities that I know students are super engaged in, and then they love to be able to show what they've done. I have a great setup in my room where students can then share their work with other students by me allowing them to put it up on my interactive board. And of course, we can also tell at the end, based on all those green lights, if the student has mastery of the standard and how well that they do. So I appreciate you very much your time for watching. You probably heard that my cat just walked in the room and is looking for my attention, so I think it's time to go. Thank you very much for your attention today and learning about standards and how I work with them in my classroom, and have a great day.